Hello and welcome to round 13 of Pro Tour Theros here in Dublin. We're about to watch Pierre Dagen of France up against Matej Zatlkaj of the Slovak Republic. Pierre on your left, Matej on the right, both of them playing a mono blue Master of Waves deck, but a few little differences in there. It'll be interesting to see quite how this one plays out. Initially, though, we're talking about differences. The exact same start of Cloudfin Raptor on both sides, and the fact that Dagen on the left is on the play means that his gets to evolve first, his gets to attack, thanks to that Judge's Familiar.
Well, it does get to evolve, and it does get to attack, but it does not get to be accompanied by a second land drop, which cannot be where you want to be at this point in the game.
Oof. And two Judges Familiar here. It's all about the flying men of sorts in this format. 1-1 flyers for one, or in this case, 1-2 flyers once the Cloudfin Raptors evolve. And looking at Dagen's hand, this is the most mirror-ish of mirror matches imaginable right now, at least looking at the board, but for that concerning lack of lands for Pierre Dagen.
Yeah, and Matej having the ability to dissolve potentially, or no, I guess he doesn't have 3 lands either, but being able to counter your opponent's first spell even when they hit that land drop can be absolutely soul-crushing. We see Zatlkaj's Cloudfin Raptor evolve into a 2-3. Taking a look at Cloudfin Raptor, there haven't been that many constructed playable 1-mana 0/1s, but
yeah, this one definitely qualifies. And Vaporkin, effectively in this match, it can block anything. It's a 2-1 flyer that can normally only block flyers, and normally that means that it's not doing a whole lot of blocking. Right here, it's just going to get stuck in, and every single creature on the board can fly.
Yeah,
but for that new Frostburn Mage, I guess.
Zatlkaj trying to decide what to do with Vaporkin. It can hold back and block Cloudfin Raptor if Raptor doesn't evolve. But interestingly, in an environment with so many flyers, like in this mirror matchup, Vaporkin kind of just like a bad coral eel in some situations.
It looks like it is getting stuck into the red zone, though. I guess that, like, Matej kind of wants to pile the pressure on while Dagen's short on lands, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think getting one of those, the Judges Familiar off the board means that Zatlkaj is going to be more likely to be able to resolve that dissolve if he ends up getting an extra land, which is reasonably important given that you're assuming your opponent has a handful of very good cards when they've been stuck on 1 mana for several turns.
But it looks like even with a second land, Pierre's still not able to cast anything. So Matej Zatlkaj, Big Z on the right of our screen, he's just going to keep on piling in, and not really even any good blocks here for Dagen. This could be a very, very quick game 1.
Yeah, okay, so we see Zatlkaj elect not to pump Frostburn Weird in order to keep Dissolve mana up. That, at the very least, would eliminate Dagen's Judge's Familiar, which is doing a decent amount of work now, given that Zatlkaj himself has 2 1-mana 1/1 flyers on the table.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because basically, if you had to describe these decks, they're Skies decks, aren't they? I mean, Skies was a deck back in Mercadian Masks block constructed, lots of powerful flyers and then some counter magic. This kind of working on the same axis, a little bit less counter magic, but some of the threats just powerhouses.
So we see Zatlkaj there. Last turn he elected to keep Dissolve mana up. This turn looking to pump his Frostburn Weird and play another Frostburn Weird. So I kind of decided to shift his priorities up a little bit.
And he may come to regret that because Dagen did find the 3rd land, played a Night Veil Spectre. That evolved the Cloudfin Raptor. So Pierre Dagen now has 2 2/3 flyers, which are pretty much roadblocks for a large proportion of Matej Zatlkaj's attacks.
Yeah, those Night Veil Spectres very, very good at stopping the Judge's Familiar. On the other end, Cloudfin Raptor still pretty big. Frostburn Weird still capable of attacking through that Spectre, or at least trading with it. Ditto on the other Cloudfin Raptor. The question now is just what Zatlkaj prioritizes, whether he wants to pump and get damage through, whether he wants to play Tidebinder Mage, or whether he wants to leave up mana for Dissolve, again remembering that Dagen has a Judge's Familiar on the board already. Yeah, when we get the life totals updated, I was like, I don't think Dagen is at 16 life anymore.
Yes, 7, a pretty dangerous spot to be with 5 creatures on Zatlkaj's side of the board. And each of those Frostburn Weirds, you know, they work for Devotion, but unblocked, they could quite easily be coming in for 4 here.
Right, yeah, I mean, Frostburn Weird, a card that really wasn't heavily played in the last standard environment, but is a card that's pretty heavily pushed. You know, it's better in 3 ways than Plated Sea Strider, which was a card that saw some fringe sideboard play already, and it's really become kind of a staple of the current format.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was Aaron that I was talking to at Pro Tour Return to Ravnica, talking a little bit about it, saying that it was one of the last cards added to the file to help push Izzet in total, right?
Well, it was originally cost 2 and blue/red, and it was upped into 2 just blue/red to make Izzet a little bit better, yeah.
Just a quick update from one of the other tables. It sounds like Owen Turtenweld is already 1 game up on Conley Woods there. Owen from Star City Games almost certainly playing a pretty similar deck to one of the ones that we see on the board here with Dagen versus Zatlkaj.
So right now, Z is getting his Cloudfin Raptor blocks. Look like it's going to trade with Night Veil Spectre, and he's just trying to decide how many damage he wants to get in for with the Frostburn Weirds.
4? Straight to 4. Okay.
So it looks like Zatlkaj getting in for 3 there. That puts Dagen on 4. And with 3 Frostburn Weirds, not quite sure what Dagen hoping to draw here to get back in it.
I mean, Master of Waves gets some of the way there, but not all the way.
Yeah, that one pretty much decided on turn 2, I guess, when there wasn't the second land for Pierre Dagen. As much as you might have very cool hand, I mean, almost inevitably, the hands that don't have many lands end up looking kind of cool just because they have lots of spells.
Actually, I think Jace that game would have been really, really good for Dagen there too, because Zatlkaj had just so many 1-power attackers.
Show your devotion to Theros today by purchasing your magic apparel at mtgmerch.com. We're both wearing these shirts, and like I'm pretty keen on, I would say, pretty much all of them. Do you have a favorite there, Zach?
I kind of dig the Elspeth one, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know. I feel like you could accessorize with it pretty well. I'm rocking the Planeswalker symbol next version right now, and I kind of like the crypticness of that.
Yeah,
like, what is this?
I like the shadowy Planeswalker symbol on the right. Like that's not one of the ones that we got access to this weekend, but I'm thinking I might pick one up because I just think it's a very cool symbol.
Oh yeah, it's neat.
It's not one you necessarily see on quite so much of the other Magic apparel at the moment, at least. And so yeah, that's kind of my favorite, I think, at the moment.
The shadow one kind of reminds me of the old Star City Games shirts.
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of creeping up your shoulder. Takes me back.
Nice high contrast shirts there. And of course, not a huge amount of contrast in terms of the 2 different decks from Matej Zatlkaj and Pierre Dagen. But now that we move to sideboarding, there are a few key differences that we might see.
Yeah, I think if you're Dagen, you want to bring in Triton Tactics. It seems extremely good in this matchup. I think you want to be able to go up to 4 Jace Architect of Thought, both because the +1 ability is so powerful and the -1 ability helps you keep up on cards. I don't know about Negate. It seems very good to be able to counter Thassa, but I don't like having to sit around and hold up mana in a matchup where it looks like you're tapping out as much. So I'm a little curious about that. I think you probably would bring in Ratchet Bomb, even though both of you have similar permanents, because if you're ahead, you just don't use it, and if your opponent's ahead, you blow their thing up.
But it's the double mutable 1 island hand. So.
And yeah, and I guess on Big Z's side of the board, there's some similar considerations, but some of the cards that Dagen is thinking about bringing in, actually, Big Z already has main. So like one of the big ones there is Jace Architect of Thought.
Yeah, exactly. I think Z has the advantage in the mirror for precisely that reason, how many Jaces that he has in the main deck. I think you want to bring in, of course, the domestications we heard about. You probably bring in the extra island. You bring in Night Veil Spectre. I think you take out Vaporkin. I think you take out Judge's Familiar, although I'm not as confident in that. It could be either Judge Familiar or maybe Tidebinder Mage, although I don't like having just a 2/2 ground creature in a format or an environment defined by access to Frostburn Weird. Then again, if your opponent's taking out their Tidebinder Mages, yours paradoxically become better because they size up well against the Flyers.
That metagaming all over again. And I mean, the first ability, very relevant against so many creatures.
Talking about Jace Architect of Thought right now.
Yeah. The second ability, I mean, card advantage, always important. The last one kind of icing on cakes that very rarely get eaten, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very good in control mirrors where you steal your opponent's Aetherling or get yours there. Yeah, interestingly, in development, we made the card not literally fact or fiction, where it buried the cards instead of putting them on the bottom of your library, both because it was really good with flashback and because we wanted the card to synergize with itself. So you could put back cards that you'd use the ultimate ability to then go get out later, which we thought was kind of neat. But yeah, I mean, Jace was designed to be one of the marquee cards of Return to Ravnica, and it certainly earned that reputation given how many were played at the Block Pro Tour.
Yeah, 24 in the top 8. That's pretty much perfect.
Well, look, we know players like Jace. We think Jace is awesome. We think drawing cards is awesome. We made that other 4-mana Jace probably just a little too good, so now he doesn't have his hood on. He's a little less powerful, but still plenty potent for a modern Planeswalker.
Absolutely, yeah. Jace, pretty much the gold standard for blue Planeswalkers. A few others have been able to sort of muscle in on his territory a little bit, but ultimately, you know, the blue house is Jace's house. And the awesome sweeping shots across the room again. We can see plenty of matches still going on here at Pro Tour Theros. And that Hall of Famer, William Jensen there standing up. His match, by the looks of things, just finished. LSV already finished as well. But one match that is not finished, this one against Pierre Dagen, with Pierre Dagen against Matej Zatlkaj. Matej leads by 1-0, but there's plenty of play left in it. And a little update from one of the other games that was going on just while they were sideboarding. Owen Turtenwald now 1-0 up against Conley Woods. Patrick Chapin 1-0 up against Christian Calcano.
So is this Matej now taking a mulligan?
Difficult position to be in, but I mean, I guess that these decks, because they've got lots of low drops, they can kind of mulligan a little bit better. They can do something on early turns after a mulligan, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think like even flooded hands, you just have, you know, when you're both presenting 4 Jaces to one another, you have to expect that assuming you can cast spells, you'll be able to draw into more relevant cards. They each also both have 4 copies of Thassa, and she helps you smooth out your draws as well. So I think, yeah, Biden from Pierre to and Z if he brought it in. Again, once you're able to hit 4, I think you can, you're not sure, but you have at least a reasonable expectation of access to a continuous stream of cards.
And cards, what it's all about. One of the most powerful sets of words on any Magic card. Draw a card.
Draw a card. Very powerful phrase. Extremely good phrase. But yeah, I'm interested to see. I mean, there's still other things that the guy could have brought in. I mean, I don't know about Jace Memory Adept. That seems totally reasonable to me. I don't know about, I mean, you could imagine even Wall of Frost if your opponent's siding out a lot of their flyers, because that blocks Thassa, or I guess it doesn't, but it makes you spend mana on Thassa all the time.
It seems a little bit of a stretch, but I mean, if you've got 4 Planeswalkers that you're bringing in, then protecting them is a reasonable goal, even if it's quite a difficult goal.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you've got Omen Speaker in already. You got Frostburn Weird, so I really don't know how to sideboard in the mirror of this matchup and what cards are important and what come out. So eager to see how that plays out in this match.
And Dagen, the one with the quick start this time, he's got the turn 1 Cloudfin Raptor, evolving it with Frostburn Weird. Looks like Zatlkaj's hand, he has kept in the Tidebinder Mages. Dagen there, pretty solid hand also. I mean, by the looks of it, we're going to have a pretty good game of Magic here.
Yeah, I mean, Z is on 6 cards, so that's going to cramp his style just a little bit, but Mutavault getting on the table, able to threaten any Planeswalkers that come out.
Fortunately, of course, for Matej Zatlkaj, he has a little bit of style to spare, so even cramped, he should be all right. But
there's no style deficit, you're saying? I think actually the last time we cut to Z's hand, it was leftover card information from the last match. We see now he's got Claustrophobia, Thassa, Master of Waves, and Dissolve. So he did leave in Dissolve, which is one of the questions we were asking between games, whether players thought they'd have the ability to leave mana open.
The cool thing here, I mean, look at that Claustrophobia. It's going to be huge in terms of generating devotion, right?
Wow, but look at this Biden right here, turning on Thassa and drawing 3 cards for Dagen, in addition to dealing 8 points of damage to Matej. What a huge play that turn.
Yeah, I mean, that potentially changing the course of the entire game. And Matej previously had to deal with a small amount of threats coming in, but at least they were more or less even on cards. He was 1 card down because of the mulligan. Now he's lots of cards down and huge amounts of threats on the board down as well.
So it looks like Matej did leave in Vaporken, which was yet another thing that we talked about. Claustrophobia could theoretically, the claustrophobia dealing with Thassa. But again, the new legend rule really playing into Pierre's advantage here, because you can just play another Thassa and say, all right, this one that's locked down, you can go ahead and bite the dust.
Kind of funny to me that Thassa might be afraid of closed spaces, but I guess it kind of makes sense. If you're the god of the seas, they're all about the wide open spaces,
There
right?
you go. Yeah, it doesn't want to be just shoved into a closet somewhere.
And we see she breaks out of that closet thanks to the legend rule. As you so correctly mentioned, a second copy of Thassa coming down, allowing Pierre Dagen to keep the pressure up on Matej Zatlkaj, who looks to be in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, I mean, Matej digging for something, but I don't really know how much there is that can get him out of this.
Fascinating games.
Very
Close, so close.
Very close.
And it looks like that a very, very quick deciding, very quick equalizer there from Pierre Dagen. We are going to be on to game 3. Wonder how much sideboard changing there's likely to be, because we didn't really see all that many cards in game 2.
When someone gets a nut
Yeah, I mean, Matej basically mulliganed and just didn't do anything, and Pierre got an incredibly fast draw.
yeah, and like every decision is so important.
Correct.
So it looks like there's plenty of shuffling going on.
Agreed.
Looking to ignite your competitive spark, take your game to a Grand Prix and see how you fare against the best players in your region, as well as top visiting Magic pros. Upcoming Grand Prix include Louisville, Hong Kong, Antwerp, Santiago, and Valencia. For more information, visit wizards.com/Grand Prix.
So you're going to be covering any Grand Prix soon?
I
Tim?
am going to be covering some Grand Prix
Which ones?
soon. I am going to be all over the place. I'm actually going to be on text for a few. Still like to keep my hand in there a little bit. It's been a little while since I've done the text, but it's something that I do like to get involved with, get a slightly different view of things. But yeah, you will be seeing me on predominantly the European GPs. I'm not signed up to any further afield, though I guess there's a potential for that in future, maybe in 2014. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, the amount of miles that I'm getting flying around Europe is still pretty solid.
That's actually why we all do all of this, is just
it definitely
purely
helps.
for Sky Miles.
But yeah, I mean, I'd never been to Ireland, for example, before this PT, which is
I had no
ludicrous considering it's about an hour's flight away from where I live. But I may well be back now that I know what it's like.
Oh,
I've
it's been a
enjoyed
good
myself
time.
quite a bit around here.
Well, I mean, that's one of the great things about going to all of these is, I mean, I've traveled, what now, to probably 25 countries because of Magic or something crazy like that. I mean, it's really a rare opportunity to, see basically the entire world.
It's a nice feeling.
And to gradually warp your accent to have more and more different cultures in
goodness.
there.
Oh, my goodness. It's only when I'm around you.
It's entirely possible that by the end of the weekend that Zach will be talking in some sort of strange cod English accent. / Irish, I guess, given where we are.
All of them at once.
Yeah.
It's really bad when I'm around all the Croatians.
And actually, thinking about it, you were on a team with Matej Zatlkaj for Berlin, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or actually, no, that is when I first met Matej, but he was on a different European team than I was on. I was on the team of other top 8 competitor in that tournament, Jan Dwaz, as part of the Belgian team, which was a bunch of Belgians, including 4-time top 8 competitor Marine Leibart.
Another
Stuart
coverage
Wright.
guy.
Yeah, exactly. And the great Frank Karsten, another coverage guy.
Yeah, the European coverage team, pretty stacked. And we're gunning for another top 8 here.
Yeah, exactly. That just keeps up your tally.
Absolutely, yeah.
Raphael Levy also on the European coverage team.
Happy to have Raf on the team as well now. And Olaradi was on text for the last GP I was at as well. He, obviously, another Hall of Famer, and also playing in this Pro Tour.
Is that how y'all recruit your coverage squad? Just go down the list of Hall of Famers and see who's willing to show up?
We're working our way up the list.
Well, so I guess you and I have got to work on our Pro Tour skills.
Well, this is the reason I like to be in the host seat, because realistically, the gulf between being the expert and being the host is just getting wider and wider and wider.
Actually, I appreciate the humility it takes to...
It looks like Big Z happy with his hand, and this time it's Pierre Dagen's turn to shuffle it up and go down to 6. Still looking pretty happy to be there, though. Obviously, great to be in the feature match area anytime, especially to celebrate the fact that you're currently 10-2 at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, a crazy record. I wish I'd been able to see the hands these guys were mulliganing, because I'm wondering if it's just strictly a lands and spells thing, or if it's, you know, there's certain hands that just you don't want in the mirror for whatever reason, because there's certain cards that just underperform.
Or cards that you would rather draw them like on turn 6, that they don't do, like, as good as Jace might be, in the early game, I'd rather just make sure I hit my lands and spells, because I know that, you know, the game should go on long enough I can draw into it.
Right.
But like not losing to a quick start from my opponent, given the quick starts that can come of these decks, is pretty important to me.
Yeah.
So we see a turn 1 Cloudfin Raptor here from Big Z, and just a pass there from Pierre Dagen.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be pretty excited, I think, when your opponent doesn't have a turn 1 play. And wow, this might be why Vaporkin remains in the deck after sideboarding. We see it's a 2/1 flyer, can only block creatures with flying, but really fast start, following up a Cloudfin Raptor, and crucially, unlike Tidebinder Mage, you can cast it off Island Mutavault. Now, we see, obviously, Z has islands to play, but you really want to play Mutavault on your second turn so you can start attacking with it as soon as you can.
And another limited hit here. Omen Speaker coming down for Pierre Dagen. That allows him to scry for 2, and it looks like both of those cards going on the bottom there. Those are the scries that really feel the best, right?
It's like when your opponent shuffles off Ponder.
But I mean, as the person scrying, when you put 2 to the bottom, it's like, I got full value out that scry.
Yeah, exactly. We see a Domestication Z top deck now, so he's got a pair of very, very good 4s. Does not attack with his Mutavault there because it would just get blocked by Omen Speaker, but now Z can represent a Dissolve for whatever threat Dagon's able to cast.
And this a fairly clear tell for Dagen that there is not a Dissolve in Matej Zatlkaj's hand, because I'm pretty sure he would be using it on Thassa God of the Sea given the opportunity.
So we, and that Thassa is still not actually fully active right now. Z probably going to attack. The question is what he does with his Jace. Does he tick it up? Does he draw cards? Enforce Dagon to use his Mutavault? Or he's got a lot of options right here.
I mean, he's going for the Master of Waves.
Oh, okay. Just top deck Master of Waves this turn. A huge draw for him right there. That's going to be 3 2/1 tokens and an evolve for his Cloudfin Raptor. It's going to really let him keep up the pressure as he's really sat in the driver's seat this entire game.
And we've just had another match from the back table. Everyone, apart from this match, is just on their game 2s, because Max Slobin has just got a first game against Brad Nelson. Brad playing a red-green deck that I believe that just him and Brian Braun doing are on, and he was very happy about his deck.
Yeah, he's really excited about it. Features some spicy technology and some fuse cards from Dragon's Maze that I'm hoping we get to see on camera. But yeah, a really solid deck from him and BBD.
And so Dagen here having a little bit of a think about his scry. Every draw is so important in this matchup. He's already a little bit behind and needs to catch up. Goes with a Tidebinder Mage here.
Now, he has his own Master of Waves, but I think the key here is you want to cast Master for as many tokens as you possibly can, because basically whoever has the biggest Master is going to win parity here. So as long as you can make sure not to lose yours. Oh, is this a rapid hybridization?
It looks like a rapid hybridization on Master of Waves. This big board might just be turning into the Frog Lizard board rather than all of those seahorses.
Yeah, so a massive play for Dagen there that's really helping him set up his own Master, which is going to be for potentially even more. Now, he is at 12 life. That the Frog Lizard going to evolve Cloudfin Raptor, meaning that even if he's able to flood the board with tokens, like we said, he might not kill Matej before Matej can beat him in the air.
Yeah, this turning into an old-fashioned race, and the fact that Vaporkin can fly, super relevant here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm probably wrong when it came to my claims about what to do with Vaporkin. Now, interestingly, Z here does not play Jace. He's leaving his Mutavault open. He's got Domestication in hand. Oh, but he just drew a Dissolve. Matej top deck after top deck. First the Master of Waves, now a counter spell for Pierre, who behind on the board is really counting on this Master of Waves to resolve.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty devastating dissolve on Master of Waves here, because Dagen, he can't afford to hold back. He has to commit something to the board, get in this race, because he's on just 7 life. Like,
right, exactly.
And he's facing 5 power in the air.
5 power in the air, and of course the Frog Lizard, which is going to force him to sacrifice something or get another blue mana symbol on the table.
So he's going with Jace. That gets dissolved.
Yeah, Z casting that about as quick as you can imagine. Just like, no. We are not letting that happen.
To be honest, I kind of feel like any spell that Dagen tapped more than about 2 or 3 lands for, he was going to dissolve.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just such a huge tempo play. You don't want to have to keep 3 mana open over and over and over again. And of course, Jace really, really good on top of everything else.
That's good. Work with it.
So big swings here coming from Big Z, and there's the handshake. Matej Zatlkaj advancing to 11 and 2.
Yeah, I know. The mulligan. I mean, I was
right
still,
by the top of the
I was
standings.
hoping you would play,
I believe that we're going to
Master
have a little bit of a chat with Big Z, but just while they de-sideboard, let's have a chat about that game.
Yeah, I mean, that game really showcases the power of Vaporkin, a card that a lot of people weren't playing, a card that I was thinking you might ought to side out. If you play turn 1 Cloudfin Raptor, turn 2 Vaporkin, have anything else, it just becomes very, very challenging for your opponent to stabilize.
Well, it's just a... It's not situational in any way. You know exactly what it's going to do, and what it's going to do is crack in for 2 every single time.
Right. My intuition was that, oh, okay, it might be more important to have 2 blue mana symbols from Tidebinder Mage and 2 points of toughness, but you don't have to care about Omen Speaker, which you know your opponent has, if all you're doing is attacking in the air. So obviously some draws are not going to be able to have such a prominent air force, but it's nice to be able to relegate your opponent's defenders to is largely useless. I think we didn't see Tidebinder Mage out of Z post board. We did see it though out of Pierre, and a lot of that might be the function of Pierre not having access to Vaporkin.
Yeah, it's interesting to me where the 3rd flyer comes from in the matchup, because actually, if you look at the likes of the way that Joel Larson is playing it, his 3rd flyer is Gale Rider Sliver.
Oh, really?
So he's got an extra 1/1 flyer, and he can make his Mutavaults fly as well.
Totally, and Mutavault, of course, gets boosted by both the Sliver and the Master of Waves, but that also helps you get through defenses on the ground, like the Omen Speaker that we just saw.
But by the sounds of it, we've got Rashad Miller, our sideline reporter, down in the area, getting a chance, I'm quite jealous actually, to speak to Big Z, Matej Zatlkaj, after his win. Let's move down to the floor.
Hey, Rashad Miller with Matej Zatlkaj. How you doing, Matej?
I'm doing great. Just won. Feels great.
I hope this mic is on because I don't hear myself in my ear, but that's okay. So we just saw you showcase your deck, in a deck tech with Brian David Marshall, and now you get to come to the feature match area, which I don't know if you've been, in the top seat of the feature match area with your deck. And it's a mirror match. So tell us how the mirror match usually goes with the mirror matches that you've been playing against, since I know there's a lot of differences with the way you all built your deck. Compared to some of the other mirror matches.
Yeah, this match was actually really tough because it's very volatile. Usually the first player to land Thassa on the board wins, but we mulligan like we both mulligan game 1, I mulligan game 2, and he mulligan game 3. And being on the play was also important. So it just felt that the person with the bigger board advantage just managed to win out the game, and Pierre played well. I didn't play as well. I made one big mistake which could have cost me game 1, but in the end it worked out also because I think I have a better sideboard.
Now I seem to remember you. Can you repeat that last part, since I kind of snatched the mic back at the end, so the guys want to hear that again?
Yeah, I think I have a better sideboard than they do, because Domestication is the best card in the mirror match, so that's why. Yeah,
we definitely saw Domestication do a lot of work over in the side matches yesterday, and it seems like the last time I saw you up in the feature match area a lot, you top 8 at a Pro Tour. I think it was the last Pro Tour. Are we trying to do the 2 top 8s of 2 Pro Tours in a row?
Everyone keeps telling me that, but everyone keeps forgetting. Like Makito Mihara was just 1 loss going into this round, and he also top 8'd the last Pro Tour where he defeated me in the quarterfinals. So I would love to, of course, but there's still 3 rounds to go, and so 1 match at a time.
All right. Well, obviously, the best of luck to you, Matej, and I'm Rashad Miller. And we're going to send it back to the booth.
a chance for revenge there for Matej Zatlkaj if he gets to face Mihara again in the top 8. Mihara, of course, a formidable opponent that we've seen in the feature match area already very, very recently. But we're actually going to be able to get a little bit more magic for you in this round. We spoke a little bit about Brad Nelson and the deck that he's very excited about. This a red-green deck sporting a few nifty little choices. We're going to get a chance to see him playing against Max Sjöblom of Finland. They are in the feature match area. They are currently 1 game in, Max leading at present, and they've just started their 2nd game. So we're going to move right across right now.
I'm going to giggle. I'm sorry. I'm still on the feed. I'm giggling.
Well, I mean, we will move across soon enough. But in the meantime, let's have a quick look at the deck lists. We've got a blue-white deck. It's actually been a little while since we've seen regular, just straight-up blue-white control in the feature match area, right?
I really like blue-white. I think the mana bases that Esper decks are ambitious, to say the least. But it looks like we're actually watching Magic now instead of us staring at one another, which is always relieving.
Lovely. The frozen stairs. We now have one player trying to freeze the game to last as long as possible. Max Sjöblom, of course, ideally wanting this game to go kind of long so that he can deploy his Sphinx's Revelations, use his Elspeth Sun's Champions, use his Jace Architect of Thoughts. And then you've got Brad, who just wants to make colossal monsters.
Yeah, and Brad's deck, really awesome red-green deck, uses both Elvish Mystic and Sylvan Caryatid, 4 copies of Scavenging Ooze, 4 copies of Pelucranos, 4 copies of Stormbreath Dragon. Basically just all about monsters, all about playing tons of land. The card that we were sort of sandbagging this entire time is Flesh Blood. A card that I'm going to get up on the screen right now in a minute because it does about 2 million things. But the operative variable is it has tremendous synergy with the monstrosity mechanic.
So in the meantime, we just see that Sjöblom at the moment just trying to develop his board. Already a Domri Raid on the board. That being neutralized by a Pithing Needle. Very efficient 1 mana answer there that does a lot against monstrosity as well. But in the meantime, Brad not too worried because he has, that looks to be a destructive Revelry to immediately deal with the artifact and deal a couple of damage on top.
Yeah, a really powerful play from Nelson, and I think normally you're bringing in those destructive Revelries to deal with detention spheres, but it's Pithing Needle, great weapon against Domri Raid too, which is one of the defining cards of the format and one of the ways that you beat blue-white control decks. So destructive Revelry is just going to allow that Domri to remain active. So I'm looking at Flesh Blood. The gimmick in this deck is that both Pelucranos and Stormbreath Dragon get huge and have monstrosity mechanics that deal damage. And then on top of that, if you use blood, that can be 7 or 8 or 9 damage for just 2 mana. And with Sylvan Caryatid, you actually can generate black mana so that you can cast Flesh and Blood at the same time on one of these giant monsters, creating, of course, the opportunity to kill people from like 20 out of basically nowhere. And Brad's been telling me stories all weekend of some of the crazy stuff he's done with this card.
I mean, one of the things that's going to be interesting to me is we don't know whether or not Max Sjöblom has seen this card in Game 1. There's a very real chance that he could just be caught napping and be just absolutely devastated by a huge amount of damage coming out of nowhere.
I admire your use of the word devastating.
Yeah, I heard it somewhere and it kind of rubbed off on me, and I think it's a powerful word, and this is a powerful deck.
Speaking of being caught napping, I think Max is kind of being unintentionally caught napping right here with only Syncopate and Aetherling in his hand. Not just a whole lot of action. We see a Pelucranos from Brad. Have to expect it's going to get syncopated, but Brad's hand by no means out of gas right now.
Yeah, and of course, Domri Raid, a fine way of ensuring that you stay in gas, and that loyalty getting up high enough that we could see a Planeswalker Ultimate this game.
Yeah, and Planeswalker Ultimate really, really good against a deck that's trying to kill all of your creatures at sorcery speed.
So yeah, Max having to send the Mutavault in here just to keep Domri in check. Of course, in the meantime, all that Domri Raid doing for Brad, giving him lots of extra cards in hand, lots of ability to just keep the pressure up, which is exactly what you want to be doing against these control decks, because at some point, there's a very real chance that supreme verdicts are going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Brad has to assume that Max has something right now. Max representing Dissolve, so Brad thinking about, okay, of Xenagos, and I believe he just drew a Scavenging. I can't quite tell. Oh, yeah, he's not going to cast his other Domri Raid, but the question is, you know, do you run Xenagos out there and try to get countered? Do you see if your opponent has Azorius Charm? Do you, leave open the opportunity to activate Scavenging Ooze? And it looks like he's just going to be content hitting Max for a few points of damage, missing on his Domri Raid, which he's probably not content to do, and just playing some conservative threats to the board.
Yeah, it's funny to me that when Domri Raid first came out, people looked at it and sort of said, well, you have to play basically nothing but creatures, and even then you miss a bunch of the time, so, like, how good is the +1 ability on it, really? And it's like, well, every time you hit it's so good. And it costs 3, so it's very easy to get in play, and especially now when you're fighting with things like Pelucranos, Domri Raid is a very, very big game indeed.
Oh, I mean, I was sitting inside R&D saying Domri Raid is too good to print. So definitely it is, its impact is being felt across many, many, many different formats. We see now a Jace from Max stemming a little bit of the bleeding. Even the Xenagos only going to be able to attack for 1. That means that Jace likely to be alive right here unless Domri Raid's able to hit a big haste creature. Brad, though, does have 4 copies of exactly that in his numerous Storm Breath Dragons. Goreclam Rampature off Domri would also mean that Jace was biting the dust this turn.
As it stands, though, it looks like Brad's shaping up to play Xenagos. There he is. And he can immediately put a 2/2 Centaur token in play. That can only attack for 1 on Jace, but every point of loyalty you can take off kind of counts. And yeah, there we see the creatures rushing in, all attacking Jace, because Brad understands that while that Jace is on the board, it's a fairly big threat, not just of Slowbum drawing the cards he needs, but also just Brad can't really kill him very fast while it's out there.
Now, Max could have activated Mutavault and potentially blocked one of the creatures, but with Domri Raid on the table, that would mean that Brad would be able to fight one of Max's lands. Brad missing time and time again with Domri, meaning that it's not getting him as far ahead as he would probably like it to. That said, Jace down to 2 loyalty and Domri up to 6, so still threatening ultimate for a meaningful amount, even as Max's hand still predominantly lands.
Yeah, I mean, this is not really the time to deploy Aetherling, right? Aetherling's the card that once you've got a little bit of nominal control and plenty of lands in play and the potential to maybe continue to threaten counter magic is when you want the Aetherling in play. At the moment, I mean, I guess it's all he can do.
Well, no, I mean, I think you play it because you're able to hit another land drop, and this allows you to play Aetherling with enough mana to flicker it out. Otherwise, you'd be exposing it to get fought by Domri Raid, so the card actually does a decent job of protecting your Jace and trading with your opponent's creatures, as well as threatening both Xenagos and Domri. Now, you don't know that your opponent has another copy of Xenagos and Domri Raid in his deck, or in his hand right now, so he doesn't care as much that those are getting threatened. But I do think you have to respect that Domri Raid ultimate that is likely to hit likely to impact the board on the very next turn.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, the main thing for Brad is he's ahead on life, and he's got so much on the board that he can do his big attacks every single turn.
Right. So Brad getting the Jace off the board, meaning that Showblum, basically it's Aetherling versus the world right now. Aetherling and 2 Mutavaults, which, to be fair, Brad is at 18. So that's a pretty fast clock for Max, even if all anyone's doing is just slinging creatures at each other. And Brad, you see him with lots of lands on the table and really not hitting anything off that Domri. Got to be pretty disappointed in the quality of his draw steps.
I mean, the quality of draw steps on both sides of the board in this game have not been super exciting. Brad missing on Domri a fair amount, sat with 2 redundant Planeswalkers in his hand. But actually, on Slowbum's side of the board, he's, as much as we love to say that control decks like to just hit their lands every turn, they kind of want to be doing a little bit more than that.
Well, they do want to be doing more than that. On the other hand, Sjoblom hit a Jace a couple turns ago that was very good, and he just drew Jace this turn as well. So while he is a little bit mana flooded, he is able to get at least a little bit of a velocity if he wants to use that Jace and to draw cards. Now, the downside for him is Aetherling really needs to clear out Domri Raid this turn. Otherwise, he's looking to just probably die in short order, and that's going to require a lot of mana. Brad also left back a Elvish Mystic, meaning that Max is going to have to pay an additional mana to make it unblockable if what he wants to do is kill a Planeswalker.
Yeah, a huge amount of different things going through Sjoblom's mind. The first thing that he knows he needs to do, deal with Domri, and he's successfully done so. What he doesn't realize is that Domri, he's coming right back.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming right back with fewer loyalty. You see Brad asking Max to play a little bit faster.
Yeah, Brad, hungry to make sure that he can win this match in time. He's currently down a game. He knows he needs to pick up 2 of them.
And I mean, I think Max was or Brad was saying, like, look, we all know what you're going to do with your Aetherling. Make sure to do that on time. But Brad, wow, just a Forest again, not hitting anything. Another Domri comes down to the table. What are we seeing on top of the deck? We're assuming he's going to tick it up. No real ability to fight, and he finally hits a creature, and that Gore Clan Rampager means that all of a sudden Max is facing a lot of damage this turn.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he can just Blood Rush it out and just generally find the right thing to pump to get through even with Trample if he needs to. Mutavault blocks are just not really going to do a whole lot here. Xenagos the Reveler getting another 2/2 Satyr in play. So Brad with lots of attackers here and able to really put pressure on the fact that Max is on just 11 life.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Gore Clan Rampager. For those of you not quite familiar with the card yet, it's 4/4 trample for 4, but the operative ability is it can give any attacker +4/+4 and trample. So even if it's blocked, it can still potentially do a lot of damage. And it sort of acts like a spell that you can hit off Domri Raid, which is the way that we see it played a lot of the time.
And I know that one a card that you're a particular fan of, and it's currently the FNM promo card in October. So
really?
If you go to FNM and you either get the door prize or you do well enough, then you can win yourself a foil special art version of Gore Clan Rampager. A little bit of an update from one of the other tables. We just heard that Patrick Chapin has won his match against Christian Calcano. He now advances to 10-3, so very much in the race. Congratulations to Patrick. Here, things are looking a little bit tighter, and Brad Nelson getting stuck into the red zone, forcing some blocks from Max Sjoblom here.
And Brad, not only does the Gore Clan Rampager pump any creature for 4, it makes Scavenging Ooze 1 bigger as well, assuming Brad is willing to pay the mana. So Max needs to account for that math as well. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 potential damage coming at him. So he's got to make sure to get these blocks exactly right.
Yeah, exactly the sort of decision that Pro Tour matches are a little bit longer than matches you get at a PTQ or at a GP, and it's because these big decisions mean a huge amount to the overall course of the tournament, and it's worth it taking the time, especially on blocks like this.
And I think, I mean, if Brad doesn't think Max has anything, I think this is lethal. We see 3 from Scavenging Ooze. Oh, okay, Max switching around his blocks because he might have realized what you and I just realized. That would have been 3, 4, 8 from Scavenging Ooze, 9 from Elvish Mystic, 2 more from the unblocked Satyr, being exactly 11. So that's looking like Max needs to block the the Scavenging Ooze with Aetherling in order to stay alive. And what that means is he's not going to be able to flicker out the Aetherling, because if so, he'd be taking lethal damage.
Yeah, Trample, of course, just checks how many creatures, how much toughness in front of the creature at the point that all damage is resolved. And if the Aetherling's gone, all that damage will just trample straight on through it. It's as if it wasn't block at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's just trampling right over where the creature used to be.
Running on through.
So you see Brad using the Rampager. Max is trying to figure out what exactly to do with Aetherling. Yeah, I definitely probably don't want to flicker it out.
Okay. And you're doing what? One more time with toughness.
And then he's, Brad gonna
Getting the
exile
toughness
it.
as high as he can. A little bit of munchies there for Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, so Max pumping the toughness, essentially gaining a life. And it's, you know, Tim, it's not often we see an Aetherling hit the graveyard.
Yeah, Aetherling, not a fan of getting in a regular, honest-to-goodness fight unless it's definitely winning.
Yeah, especially with a creature that tramples.
Yeah.
Oh, we get 2 extra turns now?
Oh, by the sounds of it, time has been called. But because there were some issues around play speed, there's going to be a couple of extra turns. I believe that's what's going on.
Okay, yeah. So 2.5 minutes left on the clock, we're being told, on top of the potential extra turns. So, I mean, you have to think that a shorter game favors the more aggressive deck. That said, Brad's deck not so traditionally aggressive that he's likely to be able to just end the game on the 4th turn. So Brad wants to get this started as soon as he can.
From the Adventures of Planeswalker Dak Faden in the Magic the Gathering comic produced by IDW. A special promo card unique to the IDW comic series is in each issue. Find out more about these comics at wizards.com/magic merchandise. You checked out those comics, Dak?
You know, I'm actually have not. I hear they're about the greatest thief of the multiverse, though.
They're pretty awesome. Like, I've read some of them. I've not read all of them yet. But like, I tend to pick them up at GPs.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like the cards in them are kind of cool. And then, yeah, it's an extra story. And like, I'm kind of hoping at some point we actually get to see a Dak Faden card.
I think that, you know, not that I know anything about future sets or anything, so I'm not commenting on that phrase.
That's fair enough.
At all. I will say we just got a correction in from the floor. While there are about 2 minutes remaining in the actual tournament, the feature matches got started a little later, so there's still about like 12 minutes in this match, plus the additional turns.
Fantastic. So we're going to get
time to complete a game.
hopefully a proper game of Magic here. I mean, I'm guessing that both these players will be looking at the pace of their play fairly carefully. A draw not particularly helpful to either of them.
Well, that's the thing.
So, yeah, ultimately, as you say, probably a good thing for Brad. As they're going to Game 3, here's the deck that has the better ability to just present a formidable clock.
Right, exactly. I mean, you're looking at Gorklan Rampager, Stormbreath Dragon, Flesh Blood, Domi Raid, Xenagos, 4 Scavenging Ooze, Afterboard, Mistcutter Hydra if he brought it in. I'm actually kind of thinking about, I love that he's got Scar Guildmage out of the sideboard. Represents a lot of haste damage when your opponent can't kill your guys. I like the Hammer of Perforos against control decks because it lets you turn your lands into threats. It's another card they have to Pithing Needle or Detention Sphere.
Yeah, just so many different things for Pithing Needle in this matchup. It can't stop everything, right?
Yeah. We're seeing out of Showbone's deck Celestial Flare to be able to kill the dragon. Pithing Needle for
everything.
Domi Raid, yeah, and everything.
He's only got 2 of them, though. He has got a Ratchet Bomb here. Will he to get up to 1 to get rid of that Elvish Mystic just to slow down Brad a little bit? Or is it sort of hoping to go bigger or stay at 0 to get rid of tokens?
I think if it were me, I'd get rid of it. I mean, being able to Stone Rain essentially for 2 mana is very powerful. And you don't want to get too greedy on it. I mean, you see your opponent having a Sylvan Caryatid, but he's probably not going to play a second one to present an appetizing target for your Ratchet Bomb.
And that Mistcutter Hydra in Brad Nelson's hand, potentially enabling a huge amount of value on the Ratchet Bomb. Wow. As it is, Brad just accelerating out a dragon if you're trying to win a match fast.
What an incredible Stormbreath Dragon right there. I mean, that, you know, you can play it basically with abandon because your opponent, you know, basically just spent mana on his turn. You know, you're not going to get hit with an Azorius Charm, and that's a lot of damage, and it's threatening its monstrous ability pretty early in the game.
So a little bit of extra time for this match, so we think that it's likely that we should be able to get the whole match in without it being too over-accelerated. But now Slowboom having to pump up his Ratchet Bomb more just to make sure that he can deal with what's on the board. Jace comes down, immediately goes up so that it's not going to just die to that dragon.
I think the screen said double Hammer of Perforos, but I think it's 1 Hammer of Perforos and 1 Stormbreath Dragon that was the information. Yeah. At least I hope it is, because Brad only has 1 Hammer of Perforos.
That's what it looks like to me there, actually looking at his hand. And also a Domri Raid in that hand, which potentially could do quite a lot here. And if nothing else, just pad out Brad's hand even more.
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't want to play a second Hydra to open yourself up to just a huge Supreme Verdict. You see your opponent hasn't deployed a second white mana source yet. So yeah, Brad playing the hammer, immediately activating it to get a land and attack for 7 points of damage, getting that Jace off the table. Because yeah, the dragon attacking for 3, the land attacking for 2, but that basically meant that Jace did absolutely nothing but gain Max 5 life, and Max is in a very dangerous position here.
Yeah, that Ratchet Bomb up to 3 tokens here, but I mean, at the moment, all that means is it can deal with the hammer, which is a noble goal, but there's plenty of threats on the board at this point.
Well, I mean, and we're just saying, you know, Max decided to keep the Ratchet Bomb on the table to deal with a bigger threat, but that meant that the Dragon came out on turn 3. The Hammer attacked and sacked a land on turn 4. That means the Hammer's in play, giving all of Brad's creatures haste. If he's using the Ratchet Bomb on the Hammer, that means he doesn't have anything for the threats that are actually on the table.
So Slowbum here looking at his hand. He's got a dissolve, so he could wait for what comes next from Brad, though if that's a miscutter Hydra, that would be unfortunate for him. Alternatively, he could try and deal with what's already there with that Detention Sphere.
Yeah, you can use Detention Sphere, but again, there's just not very many exciting targets for it. I mean, you can get rid of the Golem, but and that's probably what he's going to do, but you know, you're just not really efficiently, you're essentially getting willfully 2-for-1 by the Hammer of Perforos, and the biggest threat that your opponent has is still on the table.
So he has used the bomb to get rid of the hammer. He has used his Detention Sphere to deal with the token made by the hammer. There's still a dragon on the board, though.
Yeah, there's a dragon on the board. Brad has 5 mana. He's got Stomping Ground in his hand, so he's threatening to use the dragon's ability for lethal. And he can play Temple of Abandon and Domri Red this turn without even having to commit another threat to the board to get Supreme Verdicted.
So Brad quite aggressive there in attacking with his Elvish Mystic, and it did get killed off with by Mutavault, but we see why now as Domri Raid comes down. The dragon then fights the Mutavault to kill it off, and this is Brad trying to make sure that Max is short on mana in addition to him having the biggest threats on the board.
Yeah, and I love that play from Brad, because that means that you're not going to have to worry about protecting your Domri Raid from Mutavault, and you're keeping your opponent off mana for the late game and the Aetherling, and all the while it just means your dragon is attacking over and over and over again. Plus, when your opponent's only out really is Supreme Verdict, your elf is going to die anyway. So
Sure.
Why not take a Mutavault along with it?
So Miscutter Hydras here. He's got 2 of them in hand. Brad is now in a position where he can just say, you can play all the Planeswalkers you want. I'm going to kill them each turn and gradually build up a bigger and bigger board that it's really quite tricky for you to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, Brad looking right now to decide whether he wants to attack just with Stormbreath Dragon, but I mean, if all Jace is doing in this matchup is gaining 7 life, Max doesn't really have much of a long game beyond Sphinx's Revelation, and Brad already killed one of his lands, so we're not going to be seeing any just huge revelations this game any way you look at it. I think what we're going to see is a 3/3 Hydra. That means Jace is going to get attacked exactly for 5 between the Hydra and the Dragon.
Exactsies. Someone take a photo. So yeah, there's Jace gone, and did Domri Raid get activated that turn?
I do believe it did. It looks like it has 2 loyalty counters on it.
Yeah.
And Shoblum right now with 2 counters just not going to help him against Nelson's incredible board.
Oh, we just said that Domri got a Gorklane down Rampager last turn, so that's a huge draw, and Max now nearly dead just on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Brad, you know, you're not going to get too greedy with a Rampager here.
Cards in hand?
He's going to ask about it. I mean, your dragon can't get Azorius charmed, but you can just activate the monstrous ability.
Trigger.
There we go.
Or sorry, trigger for monstrous.
This ability, of course, super powerful against exactly these kinds of decks. And that's part of the reason that this card was made that way,
this card
right?
was made specifically to hate on blue-white control decks. And it's doing a pretty admirable job of that right now.
So casting Sphinx's Revelation in response to the ability.
And then I'll take.
You go 2-1.
The math on that doesn't seem to work out super well, but maybe it does, and I'm not counting correctly.
Maybe he did it after the ability had happened.
Oh, okay.
There we
So
go. That
like
makes
floating the mana. Okay, gotcha.
As it is, though, not drawing the cards he needed. Hand gets extended by Max Slobum. Congratulations to Brad Nelson. He wins that one. Brad now on 9-4. So realistically, probably a bit of a big ask to think that he'd make top 8, but he's looking to go deep in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, with a really innovative deck.
Yeah. Really interesting to see the way that he put that one together. I know that it was a small team working on it, but he and Brian Braun-Duin were working on this deck together. He said that they both had very similar sort of views on the format. They kind of figured out how it was going together, and lots of innovation in there.
Well, a ton of innovation while still maintaining a really high average degree of card power. I mean, you look at Elvish Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid, Scavenging Ooze, Pelucranos, Goreclan Raptor, Stormbreath Dragon, 4 copies of each of these cards in addition to Domri Raid. I mean, these are some of the most powerful things you can do in the entire format. You're playing 4 copies of each of them, so you're going to draw what matters. And, you know, you have tremendous synergy between all of these cards as well. So anytime that you can capitalize on both raw card power and incredible synergy, I think you've got a pretty good deck for a format.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looks like the plan here is basically go big, then go home.
And, you know, the Flesh Blood, you know, you're playing it mostly for the blood side of the card, and that just means 2 mana for what's got to be in this deck on average between 4 and 5 damage. I mean, it's slightly conditional, but not really. I mean, you just have so many threats.
And that damage kills Planeswalkers too. Let's not forget. I mean, it's one of those things where sort of you can send it to the player, but if you need to, yeah, you can clear the board with it too. And we've seen Brad do both those things to great effect.
Yeah, a really awesome match to watch.
But I'm Tim Willoughby. This is Zach Hill. We're going to be heading back to the booth now as we come out of round 13 here at Pro Tour Theros.
That's right, Tim. 13 rounds are in the books. 3 rounds are to go. And that means we are starting to fill up those 8 precious slots in the Sunday countdown. I'm going to present to you Makihito Mihara of Japan, who is the closest to certain we can find. He is at 12 wins and 1 loss. So if you can find someone to draw with him some point down the stretch, pretty much Mihara will be in. Can't be sure, he could still go 12-4, and that would be a monster story. But Makihito Mihara, the 2006 world champion, looks like he could be #1 in the top 8. 11 wins, Jeremy Dezani, Matej Zatlkaj, Kentaro Yamamoto, Guillaume Waffatapa. There you see the scoreboard as we see there. Dezani at 11-2. Across the other side we go. Waffatapa is now up to 11-2. Yamamoto, Zatlkaj, Sam Black still there. He defeated Joel Larson, and with 9 wins and 4 losses now, that's right on the edge of the end. So Ben Friedman in trouble, Phillips, Calcano in trouble, and Marcelo Mazzarino, who's been long time up near the top of the leaderboard, he's now starting, looks like his challenge is starting to wane. But Jake Van Loonen's in there, Nico Boni, that's the state of play on the scoreboard. But I'm delighted to say we have another standard deck tech for you, and this one is a little bit saucy. It's from a gentleman named Michael Durso. He is in his first PT, and his deck is awesome. Check it out.